The thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color is not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice and patient and continue to pray. In 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.
Wow.
Wow.
You know what? I love that intro. I'm sorry.
It's a great intro. It really is.
It is a freaking like political divide, like all the freaking chaos that's going on. And I know YouTube hates it. I know like even probably 2/3 of my subscribers actually hate it. That it's all the whole overlay is gun control and the amount of actual shootings that we've had just in the last few. Oh my God!
In
It's
the last
just
few
like
days.
wow. Just because it was the 4th of July, right? And like not to start like, okay, we're American. Yeah, let's just put it out there. We're two Americans going to sit here on the day after 4th of July and we're going to be trashing some shit. So let's just get that out of the way. Okay, let's just get that out of the way.
If you love America and you want to
Yes.
continue with that belief,
Mhm.
I suggest you exit stage right
Yeah,
now.
no, you can love America. I love America, but I'm not going to sit here and act like we're all that. Like I don't care just because yesterday was the 4th of July and Independence Day, and say that like everything's just fine and we're like the greatest country in the world. I'm not going to walk that line. That's like delusional to avoid all of the crap that's going on. It just really is. I can't celebrate being great when I'm sad most of the time of the state that we're in, that I'm actually conflicted a lot, and just actually demoralized a lot, like about all of this stuff that's going on, to tell you the truth. But um just it's just going to me, it's just going crazy. It's just going the wrong way. Like I'll wake up and like, what the hell are they going to do to us today? And I, I feel, I just really feel that people are going to come at us like it's a bad timing or whatever. But I don't care.
I
Like
invite
I don't care.
anybody to come at me in my DMs. They are open, and I will be more than
Mhm.
happy to explain at length my position to you. So please bring
Mhm.
it.
I know, because you would actually welcome the conversation, but that's just the thing. Most people just don't want to have a conversation. They want to yell at you. They
Exactly.
want to just like I will say, besides yourself and like two other close friends, everybody else that tried to talk to me about this really just wanted to call me stupid and tell me that I was delusional and that I have no grasp on reality.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind opposite or
Mhm.
opposing viewpoints. What I do mind are people who have no clue what's going on currently and continue to just go, well, the status quo is fine because nothing's happening to me. Well,
Mm-hmm.
great. Well, I'm happy for
Yeah.
you. But how about the rest of America?
Yeah, but the thing that's it is that these things are when we talk about these things today, actually it's going to be about Supreme Court rulings, state and federal, because there was one state one I wanted to mention, but most of them are the federal. SCOTUS, the big one. Okay, they
Oh, there's a couple big ones.
they're supposed to actually be for everybody, like
Mm.
not the minority. They're supposed to actually weigh in to make sure that what's going on doesn't violate like the Constitution in what is the greater good for all, and supposed to have some forethought, like looking into the future, like how these things are going to affect things. But that's not like I'm looking at little band-aids in squelching like small minorities instead. Actually, I don't see how some of these things are for the actual greater good in the long run. Although I'm sure constitutional lawyers would argue with me forever about it. But um, when when one person is allowed to say, I should be able to say and do whatever I want under freedom of speech, or and actually have it hurt large squashes of our citizens, big big areas, small groups, even and allow it to damage them and make them be less than, I don't see how that's for the greater good. I really don't. And I don't see how that is actually protecting us in our Constitution. Like I must be missing something. I really must be missing
You're
something.
not missing anything. Remember that the Supreme Court is now just oppressively on the right.
Yeah. But even being all right, they still have a job to do.
Very extremists
Yeah.
on the Supreme Court, and they are going to shove down our throats their morality.
Hmm. Yeah.
So,
But that's just the thing. Morality is okay. Morality is not constitution, no law. Okay. Morality is personal belief. Can we agree on that?
yes, morality is what societal norms make it to be.
Okay. And how does legal precedence come into morality? How does your personal belief get to
Most of
override?
the time, legal precedences follow what society wants,
Hmm.
such as, thou shalt not murder.
Well, apparently that's not true because Roe versus Wade got overturned with 70% of the country saying they shouldn't touch it.
Well,
And the four
again,
and the four damn justices that did it actually got voted in because they said it was already settled law and they weren't even going to look at it.
right, right. But
Yeah.
again, they
So
lied.
liar, liar, pants on fire. How
And
is the Supreme
again, it
Court
doesn't
justice?
matter because we
Yeah.
have no controls over the Supreme Court. No one oversees them. We always trusted them to be neutral and not to hold
Yeah.
ideology
And you know
above
what?
anybody else. And yet,
Hmm.
what has happened? And
Uh-huh.
here's interesting for you. And I know nobody likes her, and I'm not going to say I liked her either. I voted for her only because she was the lesser of two evils. But this is exactly what Hillary said was going to happen.
Yes, she
If you
did. She
put that
said,
man in office, he will appoint 3 justices. 3.
exactly.
And it
Because
will
that's
screw the Supreme Court over, and we will now take at least 100 years backwards.
because
And
that's the
it has
system.
done not
Yeah.
only that, but I will make a prediction. It has the ruination of our country all over it. Because
Mhm.
once the court turns from being a neutral body into being a biased body for either side, and I don't care which side they would have went, once you've gone to a biasness court, here's what's going
Right.
to happen. When the court swings back to the left, everybody on the court is going to say, well, let's look at this one so we can reverse all these decisions. And this is
Exactly.
how it's going to be from now on. We're going to swing back and forth wildly with our court decisions every 20, 30 years.
And that's not productive because the reason we have lifelong, appointees is so that doesn't happen, with the back and forth and the back and forth and the back and forth like this. Like it's supposed to be, settled, you know.
Well, it's
Well,
not productive. It's certainly
it's
not
not
productive
productive. Yeah.
legislatively.
Mm-mm.
It's not going to be productive judicially. So there we go. I mean, we
Mm-hmm.
have now tied up our whole system.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Oh,
Every branch of our government is now tied up in itself into knots. We just might as well just start the revolution and rewrite a whole new document because
yes, because this is exactly what our founding fathers were afraid of. This is why they said that they really shouldn't be church and state, because church does go towards belief and morality, and they're not necessarily everybody has the freedom to believe or not to believe. When you get a small portion of people that believe a certain way, that are going to start overruling everything for everybody else against the majority. So let's just put that out there just exactly the way it is. We currently are being controlled by a much smaller percentage of our country. The minority is actually in power here. They're going against what the people, they're supposed to work for the people and protect the people, but they're actually going against what the people want, because everything out there is saying 60 to 70% of people are against
and you know how that
what they're
happened?
doing. Yeah.
Let me tell you how that happened.
Okay. I
It
love your
happened
history lessons, by
it
the way.
happened because states began to redraw districts.
Yes, it is.
They redraw a district so
Mhm.
there are more Republicans in this district than there are Democrats. So what they
Mhm.
would do is go and redraw districts so there are more Republicans in each district, even though most districts or there are more Democrats in the state. But
Mhm.
they drew it in such a way to give themselves power, and we allowed it. The
Yeah.
Supreme
What?
Court didn't step in and go, I mean,
Mm,
as far as I'm concerned, you should just take a state, divide it into however many it's supposed to be, and then slap it and go
It
there.
is.
It's
It
that
is.
box, that box, and that
Yeah.
box. Don't
And
change them anymore.
they
Period. I mean,
corrupted
it's done.
they corrupted a system that was supposed to, like with the electoral college, was supposed to actually make it fairer for those states that are smaller and represent all the people. I understand the premise of it, but it has gone awry. But we did. That was one of the cases that actually I was pleased about, because that the Supreme Court has ruled against North Carolina Republicans over the election law there. And
And Louisiana.
right, and Louisiana too. And what they have actually done is they have made it that new controversial legal therapy, the theory that, like, the state could actually override what the federal government wanted to do. But in a 6-3 rule, they rejected that and said that independent state legislator theory that was affecting how basically whether or not an individual state could just override the election process. Let's
Right,
just be
right.
real. This all came about, these cases, because Trump was pissed he couldn't get governors to go against the law, okay, and go against what they knew to be law in regards to elections and procedure and shit like that. It's like, we'll just call it the way it is. Somebody just mad at an outcome that could manipulate the system had all these stuff, like all these cases started to get filed against it so that they could. But actually they're pushing back, because they are and they aren't, because they did stop, you know at one part. Okay, they said that writing for the majority, Chief Justice Roberts did actually put in there that the US Constitution does not, as lawmakers had claimed, insulate their actions from review by the state courts. But to the contrary, he said, state legislative power is constrained, in other words, held back by federal and state constitutions, as well as ordinary state laws. You don't get Legislation doesn't get to ignore the law because they decide to do something different. That's what they said. But at the same time, they're saying that state courts themselves don't have free reign and to exceed ordinary bounds of judicial review, leaving it open for drawing the boundaries of when the state can override federal law
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
and back and forth. And that
the
that
only
yeah.
court that is allowed to have no review is the Supreme Court, apparently. So
Mhm. And that's crazy. Everybody knows that unchecked power is the worst thing in the world. Because unchecked power has no other path but to become corrupted.
but you know, when our Constitution was written, those people who were considered lawyers and judges took their job seriously. The neutrality of the court was something that was held sacred,
Mhm.
and it was that way up until, oh, I don't know, last year,
Mhm.
about this time, and then all neutrality just fell away, and we
It
could
is.
see that
It
this
is.
court
Mhm.
was literally going to go with what is ever on the right wing.
Totally. Totally.
So,
No, and that's unfortunate. All this, like I've said before, um, the more that they get into this just party, just whatever the party says, just pick an agenda and we're all going to stick with it, instead of just this common sense ruling on topic by topic as it comes up, when it used to just be about issues. And I know I'm a little naive, it's not like that anymore, and it's like, and Carrie Ann brings up that I believe this actually. I wish it was still like this. I want to get back to this. The Constitution is a living, evolving document. The insistence to make it stagnant is killing. The insistence to make it stagnant is killing it. Exactly. They are forgetting that things change. In that we do have to um, look at things. Interpretations of things change, and that's what we're witnessing right now. The actual interpretations of the same exact words. Okay. The same exact words exist in the Constitution that they're using to hold this up, that actually created the Discrimination Act that they're fighting against. Is that not a hoot and a half? I mean, it's not actually funny, right, Quiz? That
oh, it's definitely not funny.
the same exact statutes and words in amendments used to create these laws against discrimination, they are now using to tear down the laws of discrimination.
Yeah.
It's mind-boggling
You
to
know,
me.
our
It's actually.
Constitution, when it was first written, was written with the country as it was in mind, where the population was not so dense at certain points, and it was
Mhm.
still spread out. As our country grew, though, certain areas, New York, Miami, Dallas, Houston,
Mhm.
LA, San Diego, Seattle, all of these became population centers. And we have other population centers throughout the United States that aren't as big, but they can, a million here, a million there, 6 million maybe.
Mhm.
But then we start talking about these states who have no population centers. Let's face it. I
Mhm.
mean, North Dakota. I love North Dakota, don't get me wrong, but they don't have the population of another state. But here's the thing, when the Constitution was written, they thought, well, what would be a good idea in order for it to be fair is if we get 2/3 of the states to vote on an amendment. But
Mhm.
that's when your population was spread out. That's why it was making it fair, because everybody had kind of the same population.
Mm.
Well, now we don't. And
Right.
now you have states that have little to no populations in them
Mhm.
who are now controlling everybody else
Mhm.
because they're just going to vote no because, oh, God told me to. And there you go.
Yeah. Well, and it is because it's based on like personal belief, but to actually deny the fact that there's like we can't actually deny the fact that there's absolute total agenda here, because within this actual Supreme Court, within this session in this year, has already rolled back women's rights in Roe versus Wade, taken body autonomy away. They've actually reversed on affirmative action, and now the Discrimination Act doesn't mean anything apparently anymore either. Like
Nope.
so there are whole sections. I mean, here you go. Wake up, people, because if you think that this country isn't full of women, black people, and gay people that vote, that is something. You're a little delusional. Okay, you're really creating a problem here. You're making this an angry society. You're making that divide so huge. Okay, and for the first time in a long time, and I know this is going to sound like incendiary, like trying to start a fire here, but I understand now why they're so against gun control laws. I really do, because they are the small minority, and
Right.
they just don't want people rising up against them, voting. They're trying to take the legal ways that we can protect ourselves away, okay, and stripping our own protections so they can rule. And what are they ruling by? Fear, oppression, and discrimination. Now, that is all against why we came over here. We were in another country over there in England, all of us, our ancestors, okay? And we actually fought against that stuff and left, okay? So that we could flex a little bit and that kind of thing wouldn't plague. The freedom to practice our own religion without being told whether to practice it or not. Okay, let's be clear. It wasn't really tea. Okay. It was oppression in personal belief. They did it. Okay. And we're not trying to oppress that small minority. No, we want them to have a say. We just don't want them to have total control. None of us should have total control
I don't think
over it.
anybody should have absolute control over anything.
Mhm.
What I
Exactly.
really believe is that society as a whole needs to be the one who says, okay, um, this is okay and this isn't, such as, and
Hmm.
I'm gonna pick on the LGBT, not really pick on them, but we'll just use them as an example, such as this. The LGBTQIA plus has been going on since the late 60s.
Hmm. You
And
know,
here we are, what is it?
hmm
80, no, 60 years later.
yep.
And now we have other groups, such as pedophiles, who want us to call them by minor attractive people so they can then therefore claim to fit in with the LGBTQ. Because,
Yep.
we have uh, an what we would call off-colored sexual attractiveness. Well,
Okay.
the
Well,
problem is,
why do they
hold
care
on,
what's going on in your bedroom anyway? Like,
hold
yeah,
on. The
seriously.
problem is this: society has said they don't give a shit if two men, two women, three men, three women, two men and a woman, two men and a woman. They don't care what's going on in your bedroom,
Hmm.
unless, of course, you're with someone younger than the age of 18.
Consent.
That
Yes.
is the problem. It's
Right.
become a problem of consent. It's become a problem of maturity. It becomes a problem of,
Hmm.
and I've had somebody tell me in the last few days, and I kind of agree with this, that MAP is nothing about um, consent. It's nothing about it's all about controlling another person,
The truth.
dominating another
Dominate.
person.
Hmm.
And even though I didn't think about it like that before, I began to think about it, and I'm thinking, they're right.
But
And
it's
as
true. And
as
when
far as we're concerned,
that other person is an in danger, at risk group, like a minor, that's an issue.
that
That's an
becomes
issue.
and that's
Right.
what society says is an issue. Here's this. Hear it well. In the United States, we say 18. In Australia, they say 16. In Japan, they say 13.
Hmm.
Now, there are wide differences there. But in the society we live in the United States, our society has said 18 is that age.
Hmm.
Now, I'm sorry you don't like it. If you don't like it and you're attracted to
Then go
people
to
under the
Japan.
age of
Go to
16,
Japan.
go to
Yeah.
Japan,
Yeah.
go
Right.
to Australia. Apparently, it's okay there. Have fun with it. Goodbye.
Yeah.
But do
Right.
not try and change or try and attach yourself to another group and say, well, we're just like you, because you're not. The group doesn't want you because you're illegal, and you need to figure that out.
No, I
But
get it.
but now what we're seeing is this group doesn't matter. Let's face it, it doesn't matter what minority group you belong to today,
Hmm.
because all it takes is one businessman who says, I don't want to serve black people, and throws a sign up on his door and says black people aren't welcome. And guess what?
Yeah.
It's no longer against the law.
Yeah. And that whole thing, oh, it's all because they wanted, like, this is the website one you're talking about, right? This
Yes,
is the
this is the
okay.
website one.
Okay, so and we understand the controversy. Quiz and I have talked about this back and forth. Okay, because we understand the controversy here. Because there's a whole bunch of people on social media right now saying the case shouldn't have even came forward because it's not a real case. And well, it's true that there was no steward, okay, complaining about anything, but there was a case. Okay, this woman actually had to go, and start a what you call a pre-enforcement,
Pre-challenge,
a pre-challenge or pre-enforcement case
which
because
listen,
she wanted to put on her website that, listen, if I don't like you, don't bother coming here. Like, I've got issues. Here's this. This is what I believe. I am not gonna work and do anything for anybody that is gay or whatever. Okay. And she wanted to actually put that on her website, but she knew it violated the Colorado discrimination law. So she had to do a pre-challenge ahead of it to prevent them from pulling down her business. Okay. She actually followed procedure. So, like, let's put that to rest.
I'm
Okay.
going to say no, she didn't, because
Well,
it's an
but it
interpretation of
does
this law.
exist. It is an interpretation of it, but
And listen,
that's how it
let me
got there.
explain before you jump.
Okay, I'm not. Okay, go ahead.
She could have put it on her website and saw if anybody actually came and said, hey, you need to take it down.
Mm-hmm.
She
You're
didn't.
right, because just
That's
saying it
what a
wasn't
pre-challenge.
actually a
You
violation.
can't say, I want to do this, and
True.
therefore I need to ask first. No,
True. True.
No, that's
Yeah.
not how pre-challenges work.
You know what? You're
Pre-challenges
right.
work like this. I'm in business, and for you ladies, please don't get me wrong, but I'm in business to do abortions.
Mm-hmm.
Texas comes and says, well, you can't do abortions after 6 weeks. And I'm going to say, wait a fucking minute.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't even know they're pregnant until after week 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you just killed my business. So I'm going to challenge this law because
Mm-hmm.
I have a vested interest. This lady does not yet have a vested interest. She was thinking about doing a
Mm-hmm.
business. She
I
didn't
get
even
it.
have a business yet.
I know
So she
you
did not
have to.
have
Yeah,
standing to make a pre-challenge.
I do understand what you're saying there. And unfortunately, several people on the way to the Supreme Court disagreed and thought that, it was something based on the First Amendment that needed to be discussed. So that's how it got
Of
there.
course they did.
But still, there is a way that the district attorney, or actually in Colorado, does have a process to actually, put it through and actually have it come back. But actually, they're the ones that put it through. So let's see, I don't know what's going to happen with it.
Nothing. It's now law. Congratulations. The United States Supreme Court just struck down the 1965 discrimination law.
Mm-hmm.
It,
Well, I think there's going to be a lot more cases. I don't think it's struck down like totally, because I think there's going to be a lot of pushback. I really don't. I think it's going to be a pretty busy court. That's what I think, because I don't think individual states are going to honor it that way. I really don't. I do see the great
now
risk
leads
there.
us into the other problem.
Yeah, I mean, I do see the
States
great risk.
beginning
I'm
to
not
say-
minimizing it. I'm
States
not.
are going to start saying, I don't care what the Supreme Court said. This is how we're going to do things.
They already are.
Then now where do we go? Because now we're not even listening to the government. Now the state government has removed themselves from the federal government.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this all leads to one spot, unfortunately.
Hmm.
And it all is because a Supreme Court that should have remained neutral and unbiased was flooded with the bench people who would throw all that away because of their so-called quote unquote belief in God.
Mm.
Welcome to hell, everyone.
Yeah, this is it, because we're actually being challenged on the fact that we just don't all believe the same, and I think that's the true fight that's going on here. In It's really scary that it's at the Supreme Court level for me. It really is, because that kind of shit isn't supposed to be at the
Yeah,
Supreme Court
it's
level.
scary
It's
because the
never
Supreme
supposed to
Court
get there.
has
Yeah.
absolutely no one overseeing it. There's nothing there. The legislative and executive branch are the ones who are supposed to
Mhm.
keep the Supreme Court in check, but they're so tied up in their own crap,
That they're not. Yeah,
they're not
they're
going to
not.
do anything.
Mhm.
Nobody's going to do anything for the Supreme Court rulings, and the Supreme Court can now run the country themselves.
Mm. I, hmm, I'm just, I don't think they're going to be able to, but I think there will be more about this. Obviously, I mean, the fear is, and I've heard it from you, I've heard it from several people, that it's just going to go under the rug and it's just going to become law. Nobody's going to do anything about it. But I really don't see that. I think something like this actually, gets under people's skin a bit, and it's not going to be let go. It's not going to be let go. People need to look a little bit into the future of what this could actually mean, because that's what these rulings are supposed to do. They're supposed to actually look a bit further and prevent problems. And actually, this one just created a whole countrywide bunch of problems everywhere, like everywhere. Um, it, it can't just sit the way it is. It's going to get challenged repeatedly over and over again, because there's just that discrimination law affects too many things. Too many things.
I'll make a bet on this one. The only one they don't overturn is the religion part.
Yeah,
You
that you can
can't
go around and
discriminate
practice
on religion. That would be
against
the only
religion.
thing that stays in the
Well,
law.
here's the thing: they've attacked women, they affirmative action. Now they're on gay rights, But yeah, they're allowed to. The minority is allowed to push on us about religion anytime they want. Okay, and I do believe, I do understand that our country, it, more than not, if you go by the percentages, they are God believing. Okay, and yes, they are, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be. I'm just saying that their personal belief, because it is a personal belief and it's so varied, okay, you cannot actually have that be part of legislation. You just can't. You just can't. And yet they are really trying to, they actually are repeatedly making that the issue. And, and that's what we started our country against. I mean, with the Constitution. I mean, Juju had mentioned Jujubee, and hello there. It's nice to see you here. She actually mentioned in there that when this and the founding fathers actually did our Constitution, they did not expect it to actually foresee any farther than 10 to 20 years into the future. It is supposed to be amended and fluidly and continue to grow as we go, and not actually go back to like the original 3 words that are written and think it applied to 2023. Okay, they had the forethought to put that out there ahead of time. They were smart enough to know that that is impossible to make it last the test of time, that it would be serviceable and useful for the population here, society here in the United States in the year 2023. They knew that. Okay. But it was our jobs to actually keep amending it and making it grow. And it's not happening. Okay. It's like a reversal is going on. If this is not the way to do a do-over, people. This is not, you don't do do-overs like a little piece here and a little piece there. Like, we have to wipe it all out if you're going to do a do-over. So if that's what you want to do, pull up that Constitution, okay, and just like let's just get it done. It's impossible to do it in all these little drips and drabs, because if you have an existing thing like a jigsaw puzzle, right, and you take one piece out of it and try to rework it, it doesn't fit when you put it back in the same puzzle. Okay, you have to rework the whole puzzle. Okay, it's just how it goes. All right, that's just common sense. Totally. Well, you know that one ruling on legislating on the states in as far as elections that they did for those two states. I'm hoping more of that happens because that's kind of in the news right now with everything that's going on with what happened with our elections in 2020. In how astray things got, would you say, Quiz? Like,
Oh boy,
yeah.
it's amazing is as we see wildly different rulings by the Supreme Court, um,
Mhm.
allowing the redrawing of the districts in red states, so they are not so unfair to the Democrats,
Mhm.
but then turning around and saying we're going to end affirmative action. And when people say, "Oh, that's just for college,"
Right.
please remember that our laws are derived from what has been ruled upon. So
This
if
is true.
you say we're going to end affirmative action in college exams or college entrance requirements, you're saying we're ending affirmative action. That's just a
Mhm.
small step away because now somebody's going to come up and say, well, you ended affirmative action here. Why not here? Why not there? Why not there? And trust me, they're already in the process of doing it.
Mhm. They
So
are.
whether you like affirmative action or not isn't isn't up for debate. Affirmative action is necessary because for the last 200 years, while our country was forming and founded and all that, we
Mhm.
oppressed. Even after the Supreme Court said no longer should we oppress, we still oppressed
Yeah.
a whole group of people.
Mhm. It's like you wonder what's next. Like, come on, Quiz. What are the odds that you and I are even going to be able to vote next year?
I would imagine not at all for me. I'm not sure I'll be in this country.
Apparently there are no rights for gays, and I'm a second class citizen already. Like, I can't even make a decision about my own body. Like, I'm just like, whoop. What do I know? I have no right. But
But
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. I do not see. Here's what I do see. The Supreme Court is willing to allow the redistricting to no longer go on and to be fair, but that's in a system, let's
Mhm.
be honest, that's in a system where overwhelmingly white men are a part of.
Right, and let's be clear, that's only 2 of the states, like, they just shot it down in 2
Right,
states.
right.
It is
But still,
everywhere, and it's been going on, we've been screaming
it's
about this for
but
20 years. 20
it's
years this has
still
been
a
going
part of
on.
a
Yeah.
system where
Mhm.
overwhelmingly white men are a part of.
Right. Mhm.
It's not, you know, like our country is right now, it's like, what is it, 47% men and 53% women. So according to that figure alone, shouldn't it be the women who are running the country?
Mm.
But no, it's those who are in power, who have held on to power, are struggling to contain that power. They want
Mhm.
to always have that power.
Mm. Now
And this
now
is
I
why
know.
term limits should be put into effect, and
Mhm.
senators and representatives can only serve for 8 years. This is why there should be term limits for our own Supreme Court as
Cause,
well.
cause let's just call it what it is. Like, when you've got a 60-year-old white middle-aged man who already makes 6 to 7 figures and's got a great portfolio, is he actually representing the majority of our country?
I mean, okay, we keep saying the majority of our country, and we really need to understand that senators and representatives don't.
They don't.
They
Mm-mm.
don't represent the country. They represent their districts. They represent their states.
I don't think there's a state in our union that is populated with more than 50% 70-year-old men with seven-figure jobs. Like,
Florida.
yeah. No, no, not even Florida. Not even Florida. No, not even. Okay, because they just visit there. They don't even live there. Most
But
of those
that's my
70-year-old
point.
men.
We shouldn't be talking about this on, representing the country. These people are not voted to represent the country. They're voted. I get it. They're voted to represent their constituents
What
in
you
their
know what I'm
state.
saying? You know what I'm
I
saying,
do.
though.
But at
And
the same time, do they represent those
they don't.
constituents?
No,
They
they
don't.
don't. Once they get voted in, they go on to a popular agenda and off they go. It's all
And they
party,
stay
party,
in,
party,
and they
and
stay.
they
And
stay
this
in.
is also our fault. Come on, let's be honest, people. We are also to blame for this, for keeping, I don't care if they're Democrats, and I don't care if they're Republicans. You kept them in longer than 8 years. It's your fault.
Hmm. I'm telling you, you know what? I now see why some of the science fiction writers of my youth actually um designed worlds that like the women ruled or there wasn't a voting system. Like the people just got up. I remember reading a short story once, like what would happen if everyone in America just decided not to vote? They're just tired of it. They just stopped. They just didn't vote.
Well, the people would
Nobody.
vote for
Nobody voted.
themselves.
What would happen? Like
The
what would
people
happen?
would vote for themselves. They would get one vote, probably their family, whoever had the largest, and this is the ugly part,
No, no.
whoever
I
had the
mean, if
largest family
nobody
would
voted,
get the vote. Well,
just
it's
would
not going to
everything
happen. If
stop?
you're
Yeah.
running, you're going to vote for yourself,
Mm.
and your family's going to vote for you. So again, it becomes, who has the greatest family? Who has the most influence? Who has the most money? And
Mhm.
this is what the problem is. We are voting on, well, he has more money and more power, so let's vote him in. What's that got to do with anything?
Mhm.
We need to vote in more people who will think critically, who will not be afraid to stand and stand up and
Mhm.
voice an opinion, even if it's an unpopular opinion.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
what I mean by that, and I'll be honest, is 50 years, 50 goddamn years, they had to codify Roe v. Wade,
Mhm.
but they refused to do it because
They didn't.
they feared the backlash of bringing an abortion law to law.
Mhm.
That's what they feared. They have no balls. They have no spines. This is our political system. It's full of
Mhm.
people who just want to hold on to their seats, who want to get paid for doing nothing every day. And that's what they want. And that's
Right.
what we give them. And we allow them to have it because we can no longer be bothered, because they don't speak for us. They never have spoken for us. And we're just quite
And we're
tired of it.
jaded against it, so we can't believe that they would. And because it's true, they haven't. So it's hard to believe they would, and you don't take a chance. And no, Carrion, I don't. I have not taken any public administration courses, but I'm well entrenched in business and how it goes. And I do believe that politics is being run right now on the capital system in regards to businesses having more say than the individual. I actually do believe that. We're seeing it. We're seeing the invasion of it. We're seeing where the top 1% get all the favorable laws and things just get pushed through. Because in our country, common sense does not rule. Money does. Period.
Yeah. I mean, if you don't
Mhm.
believe that, just go ask Judge Thomas.
Oh
He'll tell
yeah,
you that money
he'll tell
rules.
you. He'll tell you
Go
money
ask
rules.
Stephen Breyer. He'll tell you
Yeah.
that money rules.
He'll
I mean,
tell
come
you that.
on.
Yeah, yeah. Thomas will actually tell you that money rules to the point where he actually tried to say, as a lawyer in the highest court in our nation, that he didn't understand that you're not supposed to take money for like that. A
You
law
can
that's
you can
actually
you can
there.
actually buy your Supreme Court decision now. So what the
Think,
hell?
think, think of that. Like a lawyer who's actually going to say, "Well, I didn't know," and actually knows that not knowing about a law does not mean you don't have to obey that law. Like that's a lawyer sitting there and actually had the nerve to have that come out of his mouth. Like, oh my god, I
I
just can't
agree.
quiz. I just can't. Like, when does it stop? I mean, they're trying to kill me with hypocrisy and ridiculousness. They really are. They absolutely are. It's just too much. It's absolutely too much. Mhm.
I agree. It is well past
Mhm.
too much.
Yeah. Well, there was one other good ruling.
The one in Connecticut?
Is that the Strauss? No, is that Strauss? Is that, or is that Ohio? Like the one in regards to the coach who for 20 years plus was in a college and they were getting complaints about um
Ah,
abuse from the team members. He was he had to do all of the exams for the athletes and stuff like this in this college. And lots of men complained, and it was
lots of
ignored.
women complained too.
Okay. And they have been settling lawsuits for years in regards to this, okay?
Yep.
Because well, the man did end up committing the Dr. Strauss actually ended his life in unlived himself in 2007, I believe. But the lawsuits are still going on because here's the fact. The college did know about it. The university did know about it and they didn't do anything. And so they're being sued individually and in mass by groups of the people that were affected by it. Well, there's like several cases that are still out there pending. Okay. And the college attorneys, in their infinite wisdom, decided it's been long enough and they've paid long enough, and there should be a statute of limitations applied here to whether or not, like, just because the court, because of the amount of cases, okay, it's not that the court system was kicking these out or anything, but because of the amount of cases, they haven't got around to all of them, and there was like 230 people that still need to have things addressed, okay. And they actually wanted to take it to the Supreme Court to say, could you please apply the statute of limitations to this so that we don't have to pay out any more money? They wanted to say, when is enough enough? Like, well, I'm sorry, you don't get to treat one victim different than another victim this way. Like, you agreed that this, like, say, I'm just using numbers here just to prove a point. This 100 cases, we've settled with them. We know they were right. We agreed on an amount of money. We did the wrong thing. But those 230 over there, well, we don't want to pay anymore. Like, no, you got the same case for the same reason, okay? And we know we did wrong. We just don't feel like paying you. And they wanted the Supreme Court to back them on that. Thankfully, they didn't. They said, oh, hell no, we're not even going to hear this case. Go to court like you're supposed to. They just shoved it back and said, go to court. Just go to court with those
They could
230 cases.
always do what the Boy
Yeah.
Scouts of America did and just declare bankruptcy.
Well, of course they could, but the university isn't going to want to do that.
Oh,
But
why
this,
not?
yeah,
I'm
but
sure
this,
there's some law in the state that
yeah,
says if you declare bankruptcy, that the state gets to assign an oversee committee or some shit like that, and all of a sudden
yeah,
you lose
yeah.
all that power you had. Again,
But
it's all about the power you hold and want to keep on
yeah,
holding.
but here's the thing: they had the power, but in this case, I was actually pleased that they used it appropriately to kick it back. They actually said, "Oh hell no, no," and just sent it back. Thankfully, they did the same thing about presidential immunity when you get up there and you call people foul names on a platform. Okay, and they said, well, you know what? Like, I don't really think that that's actually acting in your presidential duties. Like, there might be a gray area there if you're not like actually representing your country, the people, while you're out there defaming a person in that thing. They actually kicked that one back too for the
You
state
know?
side. They wouldn't lean on. They like, no, that we don't have enough. There's not enough information to actually say that based on the speech and what was said, whether that was actually performing your presidential duties or not. And they weren't willing to say that just being president means you're performing presidential duties 24/7. Hell to the yeah, thank you, because that's true.
That
Just
is
because
true.
you're the president doesn't mean when you're out taking doing other things that you don't have personal agenda involved. There has to be some separation. This all revolved around immunity of being sued civilly for something that they did against the law, you know and they actually kicked that one back too. And a lot of people think that I only think that because of who it was that they kicked it back on, but that's not true. I actually think it's legitimate that you cannot actually hide behind the law 24/7. It's almost the same thing as a police officer who is off duty, okay, and then does something while he's off duty and then tries to claim the same immunity. It's not right. It's not right.
No.
If he's not in the performance of his job, he
But
doesn't have that
let's
immunity.
take a diametric opposition look at another Supreme Court case about another coach who
Mhm.
wanted to pray
Mm.
before every game. And
Mhm.
now, hold on. Y'all, you think I'm going to be cruel and say he shouldn't be allowed to pray? No, I'm not.
Well,
I think he should be allowed to
I
pray.
think he
He
should be
can
allowed
pray
to pray.
anytime he fucking wants. I don't care if he's on the goddamn sideline and he prays.
What he can't do is order other people to
What he
pray.
wants to do is meet on the 50-yard line before the game with his players and pray.
In actually, by undue influence, make everyone on the team pray and
Make
everybody in the
everyone in the
stadium.
stands
All right.
be
See,
quiet and pray, or at least be
exactly.
quiet. And you know
Mhm.
what? I didn't know God was so hard of hearing that he couldn't hear his people praying.
And well, we do know he is like a vengeful and an intimidating one. So yeah, there's
Well, he hasn't
that.
heard anybody pray since day one, so I start
Well,
now.
well, he doesn't answer them. I know that. Like you're calling people and he ain't picking up. Like
And
I
for
don't know.
those of you who think,
Hmm.
here's the fun part about this, those of you who think that states don't pay attention to these laws,
They do.
let's go to Florida, shall we?
Oh, do we have to? I
I
hate
know,
when you take me to Florida. I mean, I love you,
Florida.
Quiz. I love you. I really do. But every time you take me to Florida, something bad happens.
Florida has instituted a new law
Oh
that
no. Oh no.
gives anybody that reaches the playoffs, any team that reaches the playoffs, okay, 2 minutes, 2 minutes to make any announcement they want over the loudspeaker, both sides.
Well, now I want to be in competitive sports. You just gave me a good reason to actually.
Be careful, because you know that they have to be approved messages by the school.
Wait, you just said any, and
Uh,
now they have to
well,
be
this is
approved.
any. They have to be
Okay.
approved by the school, so the school gets to control what is being said. For
Wait a
2
minute. There's a
minutes.
law that says that okay, you can say anything you want as long as the school approves for 2
Yep,
minutes.
and
That's
this
the
is
same. Wait,
based.
that's the same law that existed without a law. Like
No,
they
no, no,
didn't
no,
need a
no,
law
no,
to
no, no,
say
no, no,
that.
no. Because the people who wanted this law signed and where it was signed at one of the Christian academies by Ron DeSantis.
Oh
Um,
God.
because now the Christian academies who will also get to play in the leagues, in the sports leagues, if they ever make it to the playoffs, do you know what they're going to use those 2 minutes for?
Mm.
So let me ask this stupid question.
Okay.
Is it okay for you to use a loudspeaker to tell people they're going to hell if they don't believe in Jesus Christ? If there's a Muslim there, are you telling me that the Christian religion trumps the Muslim religion because they have the loudspeaker?
Mhm.
Wow. Talk about just fucking up left and right in this country.
Well, I know. It's just ridiculous. They didn't. I mean, that's you know. Hey, I think they have the right to pray. I think everybody has the right to pray if that's what they want to do. They don't have the right to force it on other people. I always say that. It's a matter of drawing that line on whether you're forcing others to do it too.
Well,
Mhm.
Juju B, you make an interesting question. Can I hear that loudspeaker in my house?
They can force that, yes,
I've
apparently.
got here's a fun fact for you. I live in an area that is less than 5 miles from a high school. And during football season, I can hear every single loudspeaker play that they make when they say, such and such made 5 yards and blah blah. And then when they take the band out for halftime, I get to listen to that too. And on Saturday mornings when the band's practicing, I get to listen to that too. Now, I don't care personally. What I do care about is why any religious group should be allowed to tell anybody else at that football game that they're going to hell.
Mm.
It's not about if I'm at the game, I won't be. It's how about those students there? Why are we allowing a school approved message to be
Mhm.
all about, Lord, please forgive these sinners. If they don't accept Jesus in their heart, they're going to go to hell. Prayer. Why is that going to be allowed? Why are
Mm.
we allowing a single person who gets chosen, and we all know how that'll work, um, get to say a prayer that then oppresses other people? Just seems a little iffy to me.
Mhm. No, I totally get it. I totally get it. Rickard just blowing in here, trying to blow our whole conversation up. You see this shit? Like, I'll let you read this. What's it? Rickard! he's, he's, he's feigning injustice here.
Well,
Well,
actually, I think there's a better one.
oh, God. It's true. They make all that money. It's like,
The turtle asks, didn't Jesus praise people who prayed quietly? And he actually said that you should pray quietly, but I guess that doesn't matter. We in the United States don't actually follow the Bible. We only follow what we think the Bible might say.
right. Mm, damn. Oh, in one verse, yes, that he had the public prayer meeting. Exactly. But that's just the thing. Public thing is supposed to be for everybody, you know? Turtle moves. This is good. I need all the otters. Thank you. This message has been approved by Bear. It sure has. Otter up that chat. I don't know. Otters always remind me of my safe place, but these are the kind of conversations we want to have, like, because Quiz brings up a very valuable point. Like, how can they possibly think that that is a good idea? So that they, first of all, that 2 minute thing that could go hella, like, you get the
Well,
right
if
bunch
it,
of
I
people in
can
there, it
promise you,
could go hella wrong.
if it was me,
Hmm.
I would suddenly, if I were still in school, I would suddenly straighten up, fly right, and beg to be chosen. And I would be the most pious person until they put me in front of that microphone and said, "Okay, you're on," because I would lambast them. I seriously would. I would say the prayer of Satan to them just to show them how ridiculously stupid all this has become.
Hmm.
I'd make
This
sure
is
I locked the door so they couldn't stop me
you know
either. But
that's like the premise of like so many sitcoms, movies, and books that I've read. Like, okay, and then they get out there and they make that exit speech. Like, they get to be valedictorian, and then they get up there and then they rip the whole institution apart in their exit speech, and everybody cheers. And they go on. You know,
exactly.
with the whole thing. It's
We're
just
going to
it's just.
withhold your diploma if you do that.
Yeah.
Well, the courts have said you can't, but go ahead and try. I suppose.
Yeah, I don't know. Carrie Ann has an interesting premise here. What if they made censorship of the Bible to only over 18 for consent and all the requirements of laws, like any religious book or anything that is actually going to affect your life and how you look at things? Like, you have to be
Oh my God,
of
you can't
legal
do that. You would
consent.
take the Bible out of the schools. What would become of our children?
Exactly. They
Maybe
would
they'd
have
be
no
better
protection.
readers. Maybe they'd be better in math and science and history.
Yep.
I'm only going to say this once, people. But if you think the Revolutionary War was the War of 1812, go back and do it again.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. And that that is the thing, the dumbing down of our country. Because currently there is actually a political movement right now founded in Christian nationalism, right, on a reawaken tour, that actually says that people like myself, who are sitting out here and actually trying to speak on this thing, like, we consider ourselves elitists, you know because we believe in science and education, instead of just founding things on a book. That we actually want to believe in science and education, and we want everybody to get a fair education and to look at science. And still, a person like myself, I could tell you, I still do believe in the right for everyone to believe in that book if they want to. That's a personal belief that you are totally entitled to have, just as a human. You are absolutely entitled to do that. And I welcome that right should stay, that you are entitled to do that, and you can. What you can't do is spoon feed it. to everybody else and make them swallow it like bad medicine. Like, it's not going to happen, because that freedom goes both ways. Just as you have the freedom to believe it, others have the freedom to not. Okay. And that's the problem, is that they're trying to force their ways on everyone. I know. How dare I be reasonable, right, Sean? How dare I actually be reasonable? you know, and I'm an elitist now because I believe that they have some rights too. And they don't want to hear it. They just don't want to hear it. Um, I don't, it's actually trying to push fear. It's actually fear mongering. Everything I'm looking at lately, quiz, just it's like they're just being bullies. They're fear mongering and beating us up on issues, trying to say it's going to be the end of the. They
Oh,
take
oh,
one
oh, nope,
small
nope,
thing.
nope, nope, nope. I'll disagree with you there.
You don't
They
think they're
are
bullies?
stop and let me explain. They are not beating us up on issues. They are
No.
beating us up on faux problems that they create
Mm-hmm.
themselves and point to people and say, "Oh my God, they're Satanists. Ah, they're going to kill your children. Oh my God,
Exactly.
these books, they're going to warp your children's mind because The Killing Mockingbird certainly warped my mind the first time I read it." Oh wait, no, it didn't. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they do this with everything, every single thing.
Mm-hmm.
They, oh, there were these riots across the nation that
Fear
summer.
mongering.
Oh
Mm-hmm.
my God, how many people? And not a one of them went to jail. Bullshit. More people went to jail over the riots than went to jail over the insurrection. So please
Mm-hmm.
stop saying that. And it's also our fault for allowing them to say it and not pushing back. I mean,
Exactly.
we all have done it 1,000 times because we've seen them make these bullshit remarks and we roll our eyes and just shake our heads and we walk away because we don't want to argue with idiots.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm tired of not arguing with idiots because the idiots aren't being idiots. The idiots are using this as their springboard to do something else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the thing that gets me. Like, is is it that they're actually just doing this because there's something else behind it? Like, there's some other agenda that they're just distracting us all from. Like, I get
Of
so
course it is.
wrapped up in this small stuff here, there, everywhere. Not small. I don't really mean the word small, like small as it doesn't matter. I just mean, like, one thing at a time, like little
Yeah.
by little by
Well,
little by
look what
little.
they did
Yeah.
little by little by little until finally they gained, the court and they immediately killed Roe v. Wade. Thomas even said, "I want to readdress same-sex marriage."
Mm-hmm.
They just couldn't get anything up in front of them that would do that. So they
Mm-hmm.
did the next best thing. Let's just kill the discrimination laws.
Mm-hmm. So there's
Okay,
no
there you go.
protections there. Because if
Yeah,
they dismantle the protections, then the other stuff can happen. And then, yeah,
exactly.
exactly.
So they
Yeah.
did it little by little by little until they finally got what they wanted, control the Supreme Court, and now they're throwing everything at the court because they know eventually that court's going to switch back. And
Mm-hmm.
we're going to have another term of the Supreme Court like we had
Mm-hmm.
with old boring Joe. And all he does is go in and reverse everything that the idiot before him tried to put in. And this is
Exactly.
how it's going to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
One court comes in and they go and dismantle everything the other court did, and then it
Mm-hmm.
swings back the other way, and they dismantle everything the other court dismantled and puts it back in. And it's just going to go back and forth like that. Just
Yep.
like we have with our presidency. One president
Exactly.
comes in, does a bunch of stupid stuff, and I'm not saying he didn't do stupid stuff because he did do stupid stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So the other president comes in and has to fix everything so we look decent in front of the world again. And
Mm-hmm.
then some other idiot is going to get voted in and take us all the way back to being Zionists.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just,
It's like never ending. It's never ending. You know what? There's two comments in the chat like I want to bring up because like I definitely I can see this. Like first, Carrie Ann has said, when it comes down to it, it isn't actually the church. It's the money and the influence using a trained population to influence government. You're right. They are actually hooking onto that. It's very wrong of them. They actually are. Most of the ones using it are not very religious people. They don't even believe in what they're talking about. They are using it against the population that way, and not to the credit of the church, and to this proportion of religious belief, this small minority of religious belief in a certain way. They're actually using it as a weapon, okay, almost. And it I can't believe that actually the people that believe that way are actually letting them do it. But I guess it's because they also have an agenda in a certain way. I don't think it's the belief itself that has the agenda. So I want to be clear at that. And also, Book Lover brings up that, when she would growing up in a religious with religion as a foundation, okay, was never any talk about taking over government. So here is this new idea of Christians taking over the country and making it a Christian nation. It's always so crazy. Like, it was never talked about that God would force a nation to live by his law that way. It should have been about choice. I get it. Um
And
in
our Constitution was about that too.
Mhm.
It was
Yes.
supposed to be about, everybody can practice or not practice a
Mhm.
religion according to the way they want it. And when you bring this up to people and they say, "Yeah, but the majority of the founding fathers were religious." That
Mhm.
doesn't matter. They wrote that in there for the people who weren't religious, like, oh, I don't know, Thomas
Mhm.
Jefferson, or Ben Franklin, who thought of science and things like
Mhm.
that.
Yes.
And you go, well, yeah, but Jefferson, he went to church, and Franklin, he did this. We all do things when the pressure of society says that if we're not Christian, we can't hold a
Mhm.
certain office. And here's something that people have been throwing out the last 5 years. Let's make laws that say if you're not a Christian, you can't hold office.
What? That's ridiculous.
It's
Like,
happening. People in Texas used to have laws on the books that said, if you weren't a Christian, you couldn't hold office.
mm,
That was struck down, but it's still in their mindset that you have to declare that you love God, or you aren't going to get that. You aren't going to get the vote.
yeah, oh gosh, that's like the reverse, because we actually put laws in that said that, you can't use religion in the legal system anymore. Yet we were swearing on the Bible and all of this other stuff, and they've actually tried to remove some of that. So this is the backlash, like, against that now, like, to have a political office in certain states that are very religious. You
I'm
have to
not going
be
to say
religious.
who it
Yeah.
was. Not going to say who it was, but if you search on YouTube, you'll find this.
Okay, you see, this is what makes me insane, because you don't need a law like that when the people of your constituents vote you in. And if they are of religious mind, they will vote in a religious minded person. Okay, that's just reasonable, right, Quiz? So why do you need a law that says you can't even run unless you got religion? Unless you already know you're the minority and aren't going to get your way.
There's even more on this one.
So what this is cheating. This is fixing the system. This is
A-
just as bad as gerrymandering and all that other crap that they've been
On
doing.
a
They
on a
know they're
certain
losing. They know they're losing their foothold. They
on a
don't.
certain mainstream media news show, and I'm not going to say
Mm.
which one it was, but it might have three initials in it. Um, that
Wait,
well,
wait,
actually has
wait.
two initials in it, but
How
there's
dare
three of
you
them.
call that a news station?
Well, you know what I'm
How
saying.
dare you come
But
on my
they were
show and
doing
call that a news station?
they
All
were
right.
doing a
Wow.
interview,
Uh huh.
and a senator. I'm pretty sure it was a senator they were interviewing. Said to the person doing the interviewing, said, "Do you know that it's against the law, or it's the law says you must be sworn in on the Bible?"
It's not a law. What? It's not a law. They actually said that. Wait.
The man looked at him and said, "Are you certain about that?" Because,
Yeah.
there have been people who've been sworn on the Quran. There have been people who've just been sworn in on a ledger, but they didn't want anything there. I mean, it was
You
just
know what?
blank. paper.
I'm just saying.
If
Quiz.
I ever get elected to any public office, I'm going to be sworn in on 1 fish, 2 fish, red fish, blue
Oh,
fish.
me, I'm
That's
going to no, me. It's going to be Life, the University, that's it. The restaurant at the end of the universe,
The
or
restaurant at the end of the
thank you for the
universe.
fishes. Like, okay, no, Brave New World, maybe. I don't know. There's just that just drives me crazy. It just absolutely drives me, like, it's insanity. Like, that's just
But this is,
insanity.
this is the mindset of the Christian right. They have these things that they absolutely believe are laws that aren't, because they've been told by their pastors that they
Mm-hmm.
are. And instead of actually going out and saying, I wonder if that's really true, because,
Mm-hmm.
that's what a critical thinking person might do. They go,
That's
my
totally.
pastor said it, it has to be true.
This is so true, and it's like, and I don't want to knock that they believe. Let them believe, but you cannot legislate belief. I'm sorry, people. That's just wrong. Like, you cannot legislate belief and try. Here it is. You're right. It is the fear that they're losing their hold,
Yeah.
their position, and that's why they're trying to legislate all this in, because they know that the majority is not going to go with it, and it'll be too late. And this is just, oh my gosh.
But this
You
is,
know,
and this is what it is. This is
we
a
we need
group
people
of
to wake
people,
up. We need people to wake up. Yes.
holding on to power that
Hmm.
they see slipping out of their hands. And as somebody famous once said, the tighter you hold, the more systems will slip through your fingers. Uh,
Exactly. And I'm
but
hoping that that's
they
what
will
happens. More
literally
people need to
hold
stay.
on until we rip the power from their hands.
Hmm.
And then they're going to start declare themselves to be martyrs and this and that, and
Hmm.
oh, they did it all for Jesus, and look, I'm being
Hmm.
persecuted.
Yeah.
um Again, this is the system.
I
And
don't know. I think our trial run is done. I think Jujubee is right. And the turtle move says that we need to be taken back by England. England needs to just take us back now, because we're not doing really,
I don't think
really
England
well.
would take us back at this
I don't think they
point.
would. I think we've shown that we're not worthy. We are not
Now,
worthy.
maybe
Like,
if
that's like,
Boris was
yeah.
still in office, he might take us back.
Yeah. Well, because he needs the votes. That's the only reason he would take us back. Like, nobody over there wanted him, so he could come get this country. Like, because obviously we're foolish enough to put idiots in office. So absolutely, he would want us there.
And it is our fault, everyone. We
Yeah,
are at fault. I am going
and
to say this.
Records.
I am pissed off at SCOTUS for what they have ruled, for saying that I'm now a second-class citizen, and you can just throw a
Mm-hmm.
sign on the door that say, no queers allowed, and I'm not supposed to go in there. I absolutely am
Mm-hmm.
horrid that our own Supreme Court would uphold that kind of a bullshit law.
Right.
But I'm even more pissed off at the left, who silently go to sleep after winning the rights of Roe v. Wade. Go to
Mm-hmm.
sleep. Our fight's
Right.
over. We can go to sleep. Oh, well, fuck. Look what they did. Our fight's not
Mm-hmm.
over. So let's
And
go
it's.
back into 2015. Now you got same-sex marriage. Let's go back to sleep. Oh, wait,
Mm-hmm.
our fight's getting worse. Folks, our fight is in front of us. If we don't
Mm-hmm.
get out and vote, if we don't put people into office that we know will do what we ask them to do, then we are at fault. Nobody
Yep.
else. We are at fault.
True. That's what record says. Nothing like a self-destructive pendulum. Absolutely. And you've got, either you do too much or you do too little, and there it goes. It all goes wrong. Well, this thing that they've done with the dismantling of this discrimination law in Colorado, you might as well just put the signs back up that says no black people allowed, or like having separate bathrooms, and like the whole 9 yards. Back into the bus. I mean, it's not just gay rights. It's all rights.
It
Okay,
is.
when you're allowed to segregate a population this way, this is what this discrimination law was to protect. Where
Yeah.
do you draw the line? Because that determination did not say only against gay people. Okay,
Well,
that was
I'm
just
just gonna
her
I'm just gonna
issue.
piss everybody off right now.
Yeah.
Listen, allies, if you're sitting there thinking everything's cool because they haven't come for you yet, don't call yourself an ally. If you're an ally, you should be
Mhm.
standing up right now saying that's fucking wrong.
Mhm.
I shouldn't be standing there alone yelling about this. All people who believe that discrimination is wrong should be standing up saying
Mhm.
this is fucking wrong.
Yep. No, it is. It is, and that's the thing is that a certain amount of silence actually complacentness actually is contributing. It is definitely contributing, and that's why we've got to wake up, and people just have to speak up and actually do something about it. I talk about those microaggressions of just allowing small things to go by you think aren't that big. It all does add up, and it adds up to things like this where actual violations of discrimination law are going to be allowed. Discrimination laws are allowed to be dismantled at the whim of just what somebody was thinking about doing against a segregation of people. Okay, totally inappropriate. Um, Liam brought up the actual Texas statute that goes against the law that they want to actually put in. There is already state legislation in Texas that says that no religious test shall ever be required as a qualification to any office or public trust in this state, nor shall any one be excluded from holding office on account of his religious sentiments. It goes both ways. It's to protect both ways. And many of our state constitutions have that in there. Okay. And it, it's part of it. Okay.
Yep, it is.
It
So we all
definitely
need
is.
to be, you know, this stuff about writing your congressman, calling your congressman, it ain't going to
And
do
yeah.
it. It isn't going to help. It hasn't ever helped. I'm sorry.
Well,
We've
then
done
that's
the whole call your congressman, clog the phones, and that goes for a week until people get tired of doing that, and then it all goes back. I'll tell you what's going to help. If all 280 million of us march on the Capitol and say no, and one
that ain't
loud, heavy
yeah,
voice say no, it
that's
ain't going back to that.
not gonna help either because then you end up with something like January 6th and everybody just has to go through trials and jails and this and that and everything. You see, because they will actually twist that to mean that you're inciting riot and that you were upset. We were upset when President Trump called for that, but that will call for it for certain things. You see, so I can't really agree with that because it'll get twisted and turned into something else. Although I truly understand what you are saying and why you're saying it. I do, and I support it. But
So
at
you're
the same
saying
thing,
that
I know that they
since
will
January
turn that.
6th, we
Mhm.
should no longer
Haven't you seen
march in
every
mass.
single haven't you
I'm not
seen every
asking.
s
That is not what I am asking. You're saying that since January 6th occurred, everyone should give up their right to assemble and regress the
Nope,
grievance of their government.
nope, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying what it now has cultivated since January 6th is a climate where that will be twisted into something else.
And
That's what I'm saying.
you can twist it all you want because if you've got 5 million people on the Capitol steps, but not one thing gets broken, what are they going to twist then?
We did that with the Women's March. We did. And look, they still went against Roe versus Wade.
Well, I'm just saying it's time for people to wake up.
How do you think the
Vote,
Discrimination
get
Act
out and
got
vote.
put into office? We've done it. And we put those laws in effect because that's what the people wanted. The people marched in mass. Martin Luther King, the Women's March, the Million Man's March, okay? All of these. We did. We let them know what the people want. Here's the problem, Quiz. They don't care what the people want.
It's because we also went to sleep. We had our big march. We got what we wanted and we went to sleep.
Well,
Folks,
who could
democracy.
foresee that
I
the
can.
Supreme Court would put an imaginary thought of a woman who doesn't even have a case yet, really like an actual issue, because nobody tried to get her to write anything against her will. Nobody asked her to. Nobody asked her to perform a service against her religious belief or her personal belief. Nobody had put her in that situation yet.
Yep.
She had
I
no thing in
agree.
her head. She went to court and they overturned the whole thing we marched for
And you
against
know
against
who who
exactly
saw
what the
this
people want.
happening? Let me tell you who saw it happening.
Every
Her
well,
name was Hillary Clinton.
but and she was
She
being advised
said
by
in 2015, she said, if you elect this man, he will assign 3 justices, the court will swing, and it's hell from then on. And we didn't listen. We said again and said, well, she'll beat Trump,
Mhm.
not a big problem. We all don't have to turn out.
You know what's really going to work, Quiz? I agree with you about us all uniting in a voice. But rather than march, I think, can we agree that basically these days in this climate in our country, it's the capitalist system that is actually getting all the movement. Okay. So why don't we just mass not support? Like if 70% of our country is actually against the discrimination laws being dismantled, then why don't we actively put our money where our mouth is in our belief and just not support those people that are actually wanting? Like that woman should not have any business if you truly believe. If you truly believe that the discrimination laws need to be there to protect people, then that woman wanting to put that up on her website, she should not have to worry about not making any money by being forced to write programs for gay people, because no one that's not gay should want to buy her service anyway. If she's going to be like that, that's
I mean, no
pig-headed
one
and
who
almighty
no one who
thinking and
believes
whatever.
in who
Yeah.
believes discrimination wrong should ever buy from
Right.
her.
Exactly.
Period.
Whether or not you actually um all you have to believe is in an individual's freedom to do things that do not harm others in the privacy of their own. Whether that's it. You don't have to support the gay lifestyle. You don't have to say I want to be gay myself or I want my children. We're not asking that. We're just asking the simple thing about supporting another's individual right to choose in that
Right.
manner what they want for themselves. And if that's what you believe, then you should not be supporting these businesses. Period.
Yep.
Okay. If you don't want me to say that because you have belief in God or because you like to wear pink underwear, okay, that I shouldn't be discriminating against you, then you should not be doing it to anyone else other, and you should be with us. Because I know that they don't want us discriminating against them that way.
Yep.
Okay. All right.
And that's what it comes down to, folks. If
Because basically they're making racism legal again in our country.
they're making any discrimination legal, not just
Yeah.
racism, homophobia,
Yeah.
or
Homophobia, racism, misogynistic, it's all like you're
everything's legal again.
apparently in America, it's the thing now to treat people like second class citizens, like you're in with total entitlement and superiority. And that's
So do
disgusting.
me a
And
favor,
that's
please do
absolutely
not broach
disgusting.
my DMs and say everything's fine.
It's not fine. Yeah,
It's
it's
not.
not.
It really isn't. And if you
And I
can't
hate to
see
be a
that,
rebel rouser
wow.
in like, I hate to be one of those like, ringing the bell in the middle of the night or whatever, but it is what I see. It's like people aren't talking about it. I'm like, wake up. Okay, you're not mad. Here, there's you're not mad enough. You're just not mad enough because nobody's doing anything about it. Like, this is upsetting. I mean, everybody's like, "Oh man, that shouldn't have happened," and then they put down the paper, close their tablet or their phone from the news source, and walk away like nothing's gonna happen, like it doesn't affect them. But you know what? It does affect you and your children and your grandchildren and the country in general. Okay, yes, it does. Because I'm telling you, dude, one day you're going to walk in a store and somebody's going to say you're wearing the wrong color pants and you're not going to get served. I mean, it's that ridiculous. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound ridiculous, but that's what we're looking at here. Discrimination of any type shouldn't be allowed. Okay, I'm forced not to discriminate against religion. Why are you allowed to now, under the light of religious belief or personal belief, be able to discriminate against others? Discrimination in general should not be allowed unless it breaks the law. You know what I'm saying? Like, unless you're like, we're talking about abusing minors and doing absolutely abhorrent things. I'm gonna discriminate against murderers and rapists. Yes, I am. But that's different. Okay, those are not things for the greater good, and those are
Well,
harmful to society.
again, I don't know how you're going to discriminate against a murderer or a rapist if you don't
They
know
have
that
more
that's
rights right
what
now
they
than you or
are.
I.
I mean,
You and I
you
have,
have no
yeah.
idea who's a
Hmm.
murderer and a rapist. They can walk into any establishment, do their business, and walk out. Again,
Hmm.
I can do the same unless I'm with my husband. Then it
Mm,
becomes, wait, no, you're two men and you're holding hands. We don't serve your kind here. Goodbye.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're setting up precedents to the things that are obvious, like people of different cultures and of different ethnicity, and being
Yep.
able to be judged by that. The precedents that being set is dangerous, and I see it as dangerous. And yep, book lover, we are not mad enough as a society. Although we're a very angry country, there's violence everywhere. I admit it. We're not mad enough about the issues. We're not mad enough to actually do anything about it ourselves individually or take. Well, I know there's certain things that I do, and I do still contact my state legislature. I do still contact my local government about stuff. I do. I don't think that should stop. I think we should keep doing it until we get a better system. It's the only one we have right now. I do agree with Quiz that we should in mass do something, whether it be a march or actually, like Carrie Ann says, put our money where our actual beliefs are. That is the only way in our country that anything actually gets changed. Look what just happened with everybody all up in arms about different, like putting whole companies and products out of business because they don't agree with something. Apparently that works. Apparently that does it. Maybe we should use it for the greater good instead of just like on these individual little hotspot issues, you know. Um eh, there is no simple answer, right, Quiz? Like I wouldn't even sit up here and say we have the answer to
No,
everything.
there is no simple answer except, well, yes. I mean, there kind of is. Vote, vote, vote.
Yes, but vote with your
Do your
consciousness.
duty.
Yes.
Vote, people. Get
Hmm.
out. Vote. Take an interest in what these people are telling you. And don't
Right.
believe it just because it says Democrat by their name or the Republican by their name. Listen carefully to what they're saying. Look into their background. Be critical thinkers. Vote with your consciousness. Please just
Hmm.
get out and vote.
Yep.
I can promise you this, in 2024, if you don't get out and vote, this country's going to hell.
True, and I realize the exasperation that many think it's too late already based on what's going to happen in 2024. But that's why I still advocate for you getting involved locally, because that's how these candidates get all the way there for us to vote. Like it starts locally with what you believe in and what's going on around you, right there in your own states, your own counties, locally, and it builds up. If you're not paying attention locally, this is how we get into a situation where by the time we come to a presidential election, you don't care for either party. Like you don't care for either representative and you don't even want to vote because you don't like either one of them. But this is how it happens. Is you weren't active through the whole process. These people get through. These are the big cheeses now, because nobody's paying attention. So uh, and just say it's not an easy fix. It's not a simple answer. I wouldn't sit up here and say we actually know the solution to anything. This is just a discussion on how frustrated, right, Chris, that we are and what we're seeing.
Mhm.
And there'll be plenty of people that disagree with us. There'll be plenty of people that do agree with us. But it's a discussion to get things going. That if we're not satisfied, okay, in what we see and what's going on, to take it a little bit further, to continue the conversations and to actually start doing things about it the best that we can, and just to put some thought into it. If even we got you to think a little bit about it, then I'm happy. Uh, then I'm happy just to think about it and think about what you can do locally or for yourself, or how you can express to the government how you're feeling about this in the lack of
Okay,
control.
I'm gonna have to stop here. Shrill, you live in Canada. You are a citizen. in Canada. That's where your residency is. You can't vote in elections in the states or in the United States. If you
Hmm.
want to vote, then move to a state of your choice. Become a
Hmm.
citizen there and vote. But you
Unless you
can't
have
vote.
like, how does that work with dual citizenship though? Like if you
You can
were
vote in your national election, but not anything else.
okay, only in the presidential ones, right?
Right.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
you don't have I don't even know if you'd be considered to have dual citizenship at this
Yes.
point. Your residency, in order to vote in any election, you have to have residency in the United States.
Yes, she can
Residency in
vote
the state.
internationally. So I
And
would
oh,
Google
hold on,
it, chill. Yeah,
stop. You have to have residency in the United States to vote in any election,
right.
even the national election. You
Hmm.
have to be a resident. If you're doing military service in a foreign country, you still have residency in the United States. Just because
Hmm.
you're off gallivanting somewhere doesn't mean you don't have residency in the US. If
Hmm.
you're a businessman and you have a home in Paris and a home in Hong Kong and a home in Seoul, South Korea would be nice.
Hmm.
It doesn't mean you do not have a main residence where you claim your residency. You
Right.
have to claim your residency.
Hmm.
Shill, right now, your residency claim is Canada, period.
Right. Yeah. So I would say there's lots of you. It is true that
Get
there are
involved in the
ways.
Canadian voting.
Yeah, and it does affect things. Oh, and the Google search too, because you're like, I don't know if her residency is a permanent residency or she has dual citizenship. I don't know. I don't know how that applies. So definitely gonna have to Google search on that one, Shill. Because if you do have rights, then exercise them. But if you don't, you know, but definitely you have to be here to be part of it. So I would say they would be limiting part of it if you're actually a citizen in with residency in another country, because that doesn't make any sense to be able to let anybody vote for what's going on here if you're not living here and participating in it.
You
you know
have to be a resident.
yeah, you have to be a resident because
There is no
otherwise it
way
doesn't make
around
any
that.
sense. Or otherwise it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
And you know what, Carrie Ann, that's so sad. 50% of the population only 50% of the population voted last year. We do have a terrible rate of people actually contributing to the process. We absolutely
Right.
do. Yep. Mm.
Okay. Again, one requirement. There is one basic requirement. Well, there's a few, but one of those basic requirements is you have to be a resident of a state in the United States or in one of its commonwealths.
Mm.
Otherwise, you don't get to vote.
Yeah.
So your declared residency right now is in wherever it is. It's in
Right,
Canada.
right, right.
The
Hmm.
only way around that is you literally have to move into the United States, live here for however many years they say you have to live in that state to be considered a resident. Then you can move back to Canada and say, well, that's still my main residency. But then you aren't able to vote in Canada. Wherever your residency is where you're going to be able to vote. You
Hmm.
can't have a main residence here and a main residence there. They don't let you do that. It doesn't matter if you're dual citizens. What matters is where you claim to be your residence.
Hmm. Yeah, that's the thing. Hey, do you know? I did read something about that. Juju has a question about if you have to register to vote if you upgrade to a real ID. I did read that there was some concern about that, but you actually just have to double check. Get where you're registered to vote. Just call the county voting where you are and start there, because to see if you're on the books yet or if they're asking everybody to re-register. I'm not sure, and it's going, and there's different answers out there, depending on who you ask. Jujubee, so start with actually your election committee right where you are with your county voting, because everything's done by county in the United States, like first, you know so start with your county voting wherever your call comes from. There's a way to contact them. Yeah, it
Anyway,
says it says register to vote a card. Maybe that was just a a campaign because not enough people vote. I don't
Yeah.
know, Jujubee, but I would call them to double check. There was a lot of problems with that was going on last year. I don't know where they are with it now. But they were supposed to take either ID, so I don't know. Yeah. But on that quiz, I think we covered a lot. We covered a lot.
We have.
But not that we solved anything, actually.
No,
And
but we've given you some good ideas.
we're giving you some things to think about for sure. You know, Eh, Rocket Count wants to know if the Canadians should be getting ready for a mass exodus. No, I don't think so. Because I think last time all this happened, you guys told us don't bother. You weren't letting us in. So I don't know. You kind of pissed me off. Yeah. Would it be helpful as a Canadian to start taking measures to prepare to receive? Not sure if this is the right word, but refugees. Is that how bad things are? Things are bad, but like any government system, I mean, things are bad everywhere. I'm sure if we're in England, there's a lot of complaints going on between the parties in England. I'm sure in Canada, you got a lot going on there too. I'm sure you do. Like we hear stuff, occasionally, when we're not busy messing with our own stuff here, we hear things that are going on other places, But vote early, vote. I agree, Robski. Vote early and vote often. Get involved locally. Start with the process, get used to it. But yeah. And yours is Carrie Ann's is by township. Yeah, just check on that real ID thing though, Jujubee, before you get locked out of important elections like the presidential one. Okay. All right.
Well, everybody,
Yep. That's it. Let's lock it up. You say? Yeah?
congratulations. We have gone back 70 years,
Mm-hmm.
and welcome to the 1950s.
Mm-hmm. Everybody start wearing a hat again out in public. Yeah, there you go. I don't know. That's sad to me. That's so sad to me. It's sad to end the stream on that note, but yeah, I do believe that it started with with them actually go with the overturning of Roe versus Wade, and they've just been making it worse and worse. Different. They warned us that they were going to be looking at discrimination and rights this way. I can't believe we're taking a step backwards. Just without just removing everything, without actually putting something in place that protects all the people, is just downright dangerous. Because even though there are faults with almost everything we try to do to correct it, it's not going to work for everybody, and there's going to be some tweaking that needs to be done and some changing.
I got news for you. Governments are never going to work for everybody. They're supposed
They're
to
not,
work for the
right.
majority of people.
Exactly. And it needs to be tweaked and helped along, but not ripped out and like that. Just not ripped out like that and go backwards 50 years. That's just insanity to me. It really is. But on that quiz, thanks for
Thanks for having me.
yeah, well, always. It's anytime, because like these are discussions, as much as people are going to just label us as just like lefties, like loudmouths or whatever they're going to say, these are things that have to be talked about. And if they don't want to have the conversation, well, that says more about you people than it does us. Just saying. Okay.
Just saying.
All right. Have a good one, everyone. We're out of here, right, Quiz? Let's go eat
We're
some
gone.
lunch. Okay,
All
bye.
right, we're gonna go eat.
Yeah, bye.
The only thing we have to fear is fear itself.
Justice requires us to remember when any citizen denies his fellow, saying his color is not mine, or his beliefs are strange and different. In that moment, he betrays America.
Be nice and patient and continue to pray. In 100 or 200 years, the problem will work itself out.
I believe that truth is the glue that holds government together. Not only our government, but civilization itself.
In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
This nation was founded by men of many nations and backgrounds. It was founded on the principle that all men are created equal, and that the rights of every man are diminished, and the rights of one man are threatened.
America is never wholly herself unless she is engaged in high moral principle. We as a people have such a purpose today. It is to make kinder the face of the nation and gentler the face of the world.
There is nothing wrong with America that cannot be cured by what is right with America.
Through much of the last century, America's faith in freedom and democracy was a rock in a raging sea.
Starting today, we must pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and begin again the work of remaking America.